Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am holding my microphone this time and also my wall is kind of naked. Yeah. Hey, welcome. Another daytime video. I haven't done a nighttime video in a while, but that's mostly because I'm too tired at night right now, and also we are into the thick of Halloween Horror Nights season, and let me tell you, that's what we're talking about today, and I've got a lot to say. So, let's just get into it. This is going to be an interesting video because it's not really a review. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't. Because I've only been to Halloween Horror Nights 3 times this year, and I haven't done everything yet, but I wanted to kind of like give you guys something because I said I was going to do a vlog last week. Let's First off, let's get that housekeeping tidbit out the way. I said I was going to be doing an HHN vlog last week. I was supposed to be posting it. And as I was going through the footage that I took, I realized I A don't have enough footage to do an entire vlog, and B it's not really the quality I would want to just put. So I'm going to include some of the footage in this video that I did take as I talk about each experience I did. But just to like throw it out there, like opening night was chaotic and crazy. My first time doing opening night, we'll get to it. And then the Saturday that we went, I was very, very tired from Friday because we almost closed out HHN. So pretty much we closed out HHN opening night, and then the Saturday I was tired. And then I did go last Friday. I went right after work and I was there for a few hours, probably till about midnight, and then it came, we left around like 11:45, and then I came home. So yeah, I'm going to tell you about my experiences. First of all, we're going to talk about opening night. I might include a little bit of the opening ceremonies here as best as I could have gotten it because the angle we were at was terrible. Then I'm going to go into my review of like what I have experienced so far as houses, scare zones, and the show, and some of the food. I didn't really have a lot of the food or the drinks yet. Still working on that. And then, we're going to just kind of talk about this year, what I like so far about this year, and what I don't like this year, because of course everything has to be critiqued. But yeah, let's get into Halloween Horror Nights 2024 and my feelings about this year's event. So, um, opening night. I have not done an opening night for HHN since 2017. I believe I did it in 2017, if I remember correctly. Um, and I did not do the opening ceremonies then. I actually just did the stay and scream. So I stayed inside of the park. I stayed at Finnegan's, and then I got to go through the houses and stuff. That was the last time I did opening night for HHN. So I haven't done an actual opening ceremony in like ever in my life. I'm pretty sure I've never gone to an opening night of HHN. This was an interesting experience for me. So first of all, I went with my brother, and then my roommate met us there afterwards. And my brother and I actually got there pretty early. I believe we got there around like 4 or something. It was something crazy like that. And the event actually opened at 6:30. So we were in line. We were in the front. Pretty much was one of the first people on my side scanned in. So yay, hallelujah for that. Yeah, it was. So we got there around like 3:30, 4 o'clock. And it was just incredibly, I mean, excruciatingly hot. Definitely hotter than I anticipated. And I didn't have like a hand fan. I do have a fan that goes around my neck. Did not think to bring it with me. And so I was basically just kind of like trying to hide in the shade. It did rain a little bit. I think this is the first year in a long time for opening night that it didn't pour for the entire night. So that's a win. Hey, we'll take it, right? We'll take that. I was really interested in seeing if it was gonna like super rain, but yeah, it actually just kind of lightly rained a little bit right before the event opened, and no major rain. The opening ceremony was kind of cool. We had Sinister and Surreal, our two quote unquote icons for the year. They were at the top of the HHN sign, and telling us a little story about what they're about to do to all of us. And then we got to see all of our characters from the scare zones line up and wait in glorious anticipation for us to enter the park. Downside to that was the side that I was on. Unfortunately, by the time that I got to the center of the park or the center of the entrance to film, because I was all the way on the left side, like the scare actors had already picked the people they were going after, so I didn't really get great scare actor interactions. I'll probably throw that footage in here. I did get some, but I didn't really get great scare actor interactions, and it's not their fault. It's just where I was positioned. We should have gotten closer to the center. We didn't think about it. We were so busy thinking about getting into the shade at that point in time. But the actual little opening ceremony was fun. I had a good time. I thought that was cool to see. I'm not sure if they do that every night. I think they do that every night, but I thought it was cool to see. So that was my experience with the opening night. Now, crowd-wise, it was very chaotic, very heavy crowds, which I think is pretty much par of the course for every night at Halloween Horror Nights, with the exception of certain weeknights. It's usually incredibly packed. It was so packed, to the point where it was a little bit overwhelming for me. Both Friday and Saturday were a little bit overwhelming as far as crowd size goes. I'm definitely getting to that point in my life where the large crowds do get to me a little bit more than they used to. Back in the day, I used to be able to navigate them very easily, but now I'm just kind of like, people stop standing in the middle of the walkway, please. I just want to go around you. Like, I just want to walk around you. Like, no offense to those people. Nothing, like, not saying you guys did anything wrong, but it's just so funny to, like, every year there's always that moment where there's like a cluster of people because they don't know where they're going, and they're all like sitting there looking at their phones to look at the map and looking around, and I'm like, just keep walking, or go to the sidewalk, go off to the side, please. So that was something that definitely was like interesting for me for HHN this year, was like just my reactions to the crowds. Overall though, it was a good time. I don't know if I'm ever going to do opening night in that capacity again, just because it was such a long day. And I was very, very tired, like, by the end of that. That's why there was no video last week, was because I was still recovering from Halloween Horror Nights. I did Halloween Horror Nights both nights, and it was just a long weekend, and I was just physically exhausted. So yeah, I came back and I was like, okay, I gotta make a vlog, I gotta edit a vlog. And I did watch back my footage, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to record something to kind of pad out time, because I didn't take a lot of video, because it was just, for me, it was just moving too fast. Like, everything was happening so fast, and I'm not meaning that in a bad way. I just mean, like, it was hard to stop and like think about what I needed to record, because everything was just going like a mile a minute, and we were going from like house to house. We were in line for most of the night, and it was just crazy. So yeah, that is like my little synopsis of what opening weekend felt like for me. As far as the scare zones, we'll start with the scare zones, because the houses I kind of want to save for the end. Now, I want to be completely transparent. I've only been through all 5 scare zones once. The second night that I went, like I said, we left early. We left around like 9 or 10. We left a little bit early, so I only got to see Torture Fair really that night. I don't believe we got through any. Oh, and the Swamp Zombie one. That was the only 2 I got to go through. Those were the only The Swamp Zombie, Torture Fair, and I guess the opening, the one that's in the front. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Blumhouse. Yes, Blumhouse. I did see Blumhouse. Yes. So we only get to see like 4 of the 5 scare zones. And then when I went last Friday, it rained all night. So I did walk through most of the scare zones, but there were no actors. So that was kind of unfortunate. But opening night, I did get to go through all 5. I only got footage of 3 of the 5 so far. I'm hoping I can make a full comprehensive vlog at the end of the season to show you guys all the scare zones and like the stuff that I did. We'll see. But so far, my favorite scare zone is Demon Queens. When I went, it was super populated with actors, and they were kind of relentless, which I loved. I loved the energy that scare zone had, and unfortunately, it sucks that was like the last scare zone we encountered of the night when I was like exhausted and like on my way out for the night. Because I didn't get to actually fully enjoy the scare zone, if you know what I mean. I didn't get to like really like sink my teeth into how good it was. So I love that one. My second favorite, it's gonna be a little bit controversial, but my second favorite is the Blumhouse one. Even though it doesn't really feel like a scare zone, the reason why I like it so much is because I do like the actor interactions with you. I had a really great interaction with the babyface killer from Happy Death Day the second night I went. He was honed in on me. He was like eyes on me. He saw me and he was like, every time I walked through that scare zone, he was like after me. And I'm sure it was probably different people in that suit, but it was just funny because it was like every time he saw me, he was just like following me, staring me down with that baby face. And it was funny. I thought it was hilarious. Had a great interaction with Megan, great interaction with the grabber. So I feel like it's very interactive. That's why I like it. The reason why, that's probably the reason why that's my second favorite, is because it's definitely got that fun, like almost a photo op vibe, which I don't mind too much. My third favorite would probably be the Swamp Zombie one. The first time we walked through, it was way too populated with people, and it's unfortunately becoming a really big problem for certain areas, certain scare zone areas. I think New York and Central Park are suffering the most from it, where it becomes too overpopulated that the actors can't really do their job. Especially Central Park though, because it's so compact, because it's got that like trees over it. It's hard for the actors to really get into the crowds because you've got like a whole sea of people moving through there. And but I liked that one because it just feels like you're walking through the Florida swamps, but also I like the general aesthetic to it, and I think the costumes look pretty cool in that one. Definitely like a creepy one to walk through when there's less of a crowd. The actors really do like sell it in that one, so I was impressed with it. My fourth favorite one, and this might be controversial, I don't really like Torture Fair. I hate to say it. This is probably my least favorite one that they've done in New York. Partially, it's because I feel like every time I've walked through it, the actors haven't really tried to like scare people. They're just kind of walking around. And I don't know if that's just because, again, it's overcrowded and they just don't know who to go after, which is totally valid. And not, obviously, this is no disrespect to the people that are working really hard, but it just felt like a lot of them were just standing around, like looking around. And I'm like, are you guys going to do anything? Like, you guys going to run up to people? Like, occasionally I would see them. But the other reason why Torture Fair is my least favorite this year, the soundtrack. And this is my first bone to pick with Universal Studios this year, which is, again, I'm but a lowly YouTuber. Obviously, I don't expect Universal Studios to take anything I say seriously, and other people probably disagree with me on this. I cannot stand the screaming. I can't. They started using the screaming in the Major Sweet Scare Zone in 2022, and I thought that was clever. But it seemed like it was mixed better, so it was intercut with the music they were playing, which was like the 1950s, like, you know, pop music. They mixed it a lot better so that the screaming wasn't as overpowering. And then they did have the screaming last year in the Vamp 69 scare zone, but again, it was mixed so much better, and I mean sound wise mixed so much better, that the music wasn't being overpowered by the screams. The screams were there and you heard them, but it wasn't being overpowered. I think because this year they're not using actual songs, they're using like Ren Fair music. The screams are overpowering the music, and it's annoying. I hate to say it, but it's annoying. There was at one point, I think on the Saturday that I went, we were kind of sitting in that area by Louis where the bathrooms are, because we were kind of just waiting for things to open. We had done Stay and Scream and a lot of stuff hadn't opened yet. We were kind of just waiting for things to open. And I was sitting there and I was like, I have to put my headphones in because the screaming, like music, I had to put music on because the screaming was just bothering me. And it wasn't like it was scaring me. It was just like, it was grating my nerves to the point where I was like, oh my God, this is so, it's just so loud. It's so loud for no reason. And it's just people like, you know, because they're being tortured. And I'm like, you guys got to tone that. You got to mix that a little bit better, because it shouldn't be overpowering the music, especially because it's so constant. It's not like it's like an occasional scream. It's literally like the entire soundtrack of that area is just Ren Fair music with people shrieking over it. And because it's so constant, it's definitely one of those things that I'm like, that needs to be a little bit lower in the sound mix. Just like dial it down a little bit, because if it'd be one thing if it was like occasionally there's somebody screaming every couple of like measures, there's somebody screaming or like, you know, at the top of their lungs. But because it's just constant, you're hearing stabbing, you're hearing people like being ripped apart, you're hearing like bones crunching. I understand the purpose of it, because it's supposed to give you the illusion that people are being gruesomely tortured at this Ren Fair, but it's too much for me personally. Other people might not be bothered by it, but for me it was just like, oh my goodness, it just doesn't stop. And especially if you get stuck by one of the speakers, like when we were waiting for Ghostbusters last Friday, we were stuck by one of the speakers for a good like couple of minutes, and it's just constant screaming. And I'm like, this is brutal. This is like not even brutal in the way of like, oh, like they're doing brutal acts, like brutal in the, oh my God, I am just standing here listening to I feel like I'm in like like, I don't know, I feel like I've gone insane because all I'm doing is hearing screaming. So just the one minor critique is that I love the fact that they use the screams to sort of enhance the area, mix it a little bit better so that it's not so overbearing, especially if you're going to use that much screaming in the one area, because it is a lot for me personally. Again, other people might love it, they might think it's great. I'm not knocking you if you do. It just for me, it was just like, wow, this is a lot. This is a hell of a lot of screaming. And I noticed it by the third night I went. I was like, yeah, I don't like this area. It's too much. Like, it's too overstimulating for me. It's too loud. So that's my only complaint, because the other scare zones don't really utilize that. I mean, Bloomhouse did have screaming, I noticed, but it wasn't as overbearing for some reason as Torture Fair. So I don't know what the issue is. Again, it could just be a sound mixing issue where they just have the Scream soundtrack pushed all the way up, and then like the regular music kind of like just down here, so it's like kind of in the background, so like the whole thing you're really hearing is the screams to kind of amplify the, I don't know what the issue is. Obviously I don't work at Universal, but that's definitely something that I was noticing that was like driving me kind of insane while I was there. And it was like, the goal is not to actually drive us insane, guys. The goal is not to actually do that. We're supposed to leave here feeling good. And for the last scare zone would be the Duality of Fear. I don't even count those scare zones, the entrance scare zones, as scare zones, because there's usually not a lot of props there, and there's usually not a lot going on there. It doesn't feel like a scare zone. It just sort of feels like, here's the entrance and there's like a bunch of characters. So that's just me. That's the last one, obviously, on my list. So that's my view on this year's scare zones. How do I feel about this year's houses? All right, so off top, I have to be transparent about two things. One, I have not done all the houses yet. I still have 2 that I haven't touched. Mostly because, like I said, we only were able to do 4 the first night that we were there. And then I believe we did 2 the second night I was there. And then when I went on Friday, we only did about, we did 4. But we did, because I went with my roommate and she didn't really get to do a lot the night that we went. The first night we went, we hit the ones that she hadn't hit yet that I had already done. And there's still like 1 that I've done that she hasn't done. And then there's 2 that none of us have done. So yeah, I haven't done everything yet. And I want to be transparent about that. So obviously when I do my big end of the season HHN video, my opinions will probably change and shift. And they all already kind of have shifted a little bit. The second thing I need to be transparent about. Okay. I am not doing one of the houses this year. Not at all. And the reason why is because of a phobia that I have that is utilized in some of the other houses, but apparently is utilized too much in this one house. And I've been warned not only by a lovely channel called Super Enthused, who I reached out to on Threads about how I was grateful that she mentioned that this phobia was in some of these houses. I was warned by her, and then I was also warned by several people that I'm friends with not to go in this house because of this phobia. So unfortunately, I will not be doing Major Sweets Candy Factory. I will, however, get opinions from my friends who have gone in that house, how they feel about it. I have heard wonderful things about this house. I have heard that it is a top contender for House of the Year this year. I don't know, but I've heard that it's top contender for House of the Year this year. I've heard it's many people's favorites houses. I've had several people tell me that it is their favorite house this year, and it kind of bums me out that Universal chose what they chose to do with this house. But I called it, and if you go back, I think when I did my announcement video where I went over the announcements for all the houses, I had mentioned that I had a serious phobia of this, and that I was pretty sure it was going to come into play in this house, and I hate it when I'm right. That's all I can say is I hate it when I'm right. The second I saw Super Enthused video about the premium Scream Night where she was like going through all the houses, or not all of them, but she went through a lot of the houses, and she mentioned that house featured that very heavily, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want to gross anybody out, but as soon as she mentioned that, I was like, oh, I hate being right. Like, I was so hoping that maybe I was wrong, that maybe Universal would go the route to not include that, because the Major Sweet Scare Zone didn't have that in it. And that was something that made me really happy, because I 100% expected the Major Sweet Scare Zone to play into this phobia that I have, because of it being a food-based, kids-related, candy-related phobia. Or not phobia, but like horror thing. I 100% expected it, and they didn't do it in the Scare Zone. So I was like, oh, and when I heard they were going to do a house, I was like, they're not going to do it in the house. I was like, maybe they will do it in the house. And I was like, I'm gonna wait. That's going to be one I'm going to let other people go through first. And then when I watched her video the morning I was going to Halloween Horror Nights that Friday, she confirmed it. And I was like, I knew it. I hate that I knew it, because I don't like tapping out of houses, especially if I'm going to be rating all the houses and giving you guys my insight. I don't like tapping out of houses. And unfortunately, I haven't watched it. I don't even know if I can watch it because of the content in it. Unfortunately, that is one that I am going to have to fully 110% tap out on, though. I hate to say that, but it is one I'm going to have to tap out on, just from what I've heard and having several people say to me, if that's your phobia, yeah, I wouldn't go through that one. So unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, I will not be doing all 10 houses this year. I will just get the insight from my brother and my friends who will go through that house on what they think of the house, and pass the message along to you guys. So yeah, I won't be going through Major Sweets Candy Factory. And this is my call, my biggest critique for this year. Please don't do this next year. That's all I can say. Please don't include this. There are technically 4 houses that include my phobia. I have been through 2 of the 4. One of them, I still haven't done it. I've been through 4 houses. I made it through the first 2. The first one I expected that to be included, and it wasn't that graphic, thankfully. The second one I had no idea. That caught me off guard, and it definitely freaked me out. I am going to go through that house again. And then the third house that I'm going to go through with that phobia, I've seen the scene a little bit on TikTok, and it looks like I could do it, but I'm also like, I want to watch the whole house first. So yeah, there's 4 houses that include that phobia. 2 of them I've been in, 1 of them I have not. The other one I'm not going in. Next year, Universal, I have a plea, I have a call to you. Please don't include this. There's no reason to include this. Narratively, there's no reason. I understand for the first 2, those are parts of a movie, so I respect that. But just please, I'm just begging you guys, don't include this. Like, and it's not because it's something that, like, it scares me, but it doesn't scare me in a way that's fun. It scares me in a way that traumatizes me a little bit. So please, I'm just asking next year, or if you want to include it, just do one house, not 4. Just do one house. This is 4 houses is too many with that in there, like too many. And if you're gonna do one house, make it like one scene, like the rest of the houses are, except for major suites. So yeah, personally, like I said, I'm hoping that next year is a lot less. I'm hoping next year's a lot less of that. They moved away from that for a long while, and I was grateful because after the trick-or-treat scare zone and the trick-or-treat haunted house, I was very anxious about going into future haunted houses because of that, and I kind of moved away from that. They've included some scenes, but not too much. This year, they just decided for some reason to go balls to the wall with it, and like I said, next year, I'm asking you guys, I'm begging from the bottom of my heart, please don't do that. At least not to the level of what Major Suites is allegedly supposed to be like. Please don't do it. That's all I'm saying. Okay, that's me. Again, I'm the weirdo. Other people might not be as bothered by it as I am. Let's move on. And like I said, I haven't done all 10 houses yet, or all 9 houses, since I'm not doing all 10. I will be doing the other 2 hopefully soon, and then I will give my full review at the end of the season of everything. But I want to go through the oh my god, how many houses is that? It's 8? Yeah, 8 houses I've done already. And 4 of those houses I've done twice, so I'm going to give my insight on both runs of those houses. But I am going to go in order of my least favorite and then work up to my most favorite. As of right now, my ratings can change. But as of right now, this is my least favorite to my most favorite. So let's go. Halloween Horror Nights. We've got the medallion up. We've got all of the flags behind the cages. I am hearing great things about this house right here in Insidious, so I'm ready to go. Let's get in there. All right. We're going to start with my least favorite house, and I am already going to come out of the gate swinging with controversy. I know people are going to dislike this opinion, and I did a TikTok about this. Obviously, I'm not like really on TikTok, so I don't really like talk to people on there. So we're going to start with my least favorite house so far, and that house is Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. This isn't me saying it's a bad house. I actually think it is aesthetically one of the prettier houses that I've seen. However, it is my least favorite Universal Monsters house that they've done so far. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad house. I didn't jump. I didn't get scared. There was not one moment that there was a scare that hit me hard in that house. Now, I've only been through this house once. That can change going forward because there's another house on this list that I did not get scared in, but when I went through it the second time, I did. So this could definitely change. I thought the story was very good. I thought the idea of having an all-female cast, also having a lot of black Brides of Frankenstein was super cool. It just wasn't scary. I didn't feel scared through most of that house. So I can easily say that's probably my least favorite house because I didn't feel any like fear going through it. And that could just be because I love the Universal Monsters a lot. But there's another house that I thought I was going to just have a great time in that we'll talk about it later. Anyways, but that one definitely is on the bottom of my list so far. I haven't gone through it again, so I can't say if I still feel this way. But I will at the end of the season tell you guys how I feel about Universal Monsters after the fact. The next house on this list, I did go through twice. And oddly enough, I find it to be a very cute house. And that is Monstros, the Monsters of Latin America. Actually, when I left the house the last time I went through it with my roommate who hadn't gone through it when we first went, I said to her, I was like, wasn't that a cute house? And she goes, yeah, it was pretty cute. I don't know why a lot of the houses this year are very cute to me. It's so funny. Like, they're very cutesy. Like, you know, I know people are like, oh yeah, it's so stupid. But like, I don't know. I have fun through them. I do jump. I do scream. I didn't get any scares the second time I went through. The first time I did get some good scares, but the second time I went through, I didn't get any scares. It's a fun house. I wouldn't say avoid it entirely. It's right at the entrance. So I think that a lot of people will bypass it and go straight down to like A Quiet Place and Insidious and Ghostbusters, but don't knock it till you try it. It is a fun house. It's got a good story. You kind of go through all of this like blood and guts and gore from all these different monsters of Latin America, and I think it's really cool. So that one is probably my second least favorite one. Moving on to my third least favorite one, I would have to say A Quiet Place. The beginning of the house is really good, and I'm really excited to see like how my best friend fares through this, because she don't know it yet, but she's gonna have to lead when we go together. So she's gonna have to lead through that house because there's just no way. But yeah, the reason why it's low on my list isn't because it's a bad house. There are a few reasons. Number one, I didn't see a lot of the ASL that was promised being used. I did watch today Hollywood's A Quiet Place house, and there was a lot more of the ASL in that one than there was in this one. I felt like maybe it's because I was too busy cowering in fear I didn't notice, or maybe it's because of the fact that like I just didn't notice it. I just didn't see certain things happening at the time because I was so scared of the animatronics, which is another thing I want to complain about. The animatronics, there was a lot of them. And I know you kind of have to because the nature of the monster in A Quiet Place, but it would have been nice to see somebody in a suit, or even just to have something that was a little bit more like piloted better, if that makes sense. Again, I've only been through it once, so my opinion can definitely change. Okay. Wow. So apparently my entire system just decided to crash. I hope that first part of the video makes sense. Yeah, so I was saying about A Quiet Place. I think the transition between the first movie and the second movie is incredibly jarring, personally. It was weird because it was like all of a sudden we were just in the second movie, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, it didn't really feel like there was a journey. It was just like all of a sudden we were in the second movie. But the things I did like about the Quiet Place house was I love that there was no usage of a soundtrack. And if you get a good run through, like we got a pretty good run through where there wasn't too many people screaming and it's really quiet. Everybody's trying to actually stay quiet. It makes it a lot eerier in there. And I will say that's probably the most fun about this house is trying your best to stay quiet, like not talk, not scream, not do anything. The beginning of the house I screamed, and then the rest of the house I was trying my hardest not to scream. I had my mouth, sorry, I covered my mouth in real life, but I had my mouth covered. Like, I was like, no, I don't want to scream. I don't want to scream. And I think I did pretty good. Just the beginning of the house I screamed, but not the rest of the house. I screamed internally a lot. That one's probably my third least favorite out of the ones I went through. Okay, so now we are on to the last four that I did, I believe. Trying to hold on. Give me a second. Okay, so I've only done 7 houses. I don't know why I thought I did 8. Okay, I've only done 7 houses. That's my bad there. Okay, so the one that's kind of smack dab in the middle for me, and this actually swapped for me because originally I believe that this house was before this house, and that one was smack dab in the middle for me is actually maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. That one that's smack dab in the middle for me is Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is a lot of fun, and it's definitely a great starter haunted house. If you're with a kid or a friend who isn't quite sure how they're going to feel about the haunted houses, I definitely think this one is a good one to start with. It's more funny than scary, and a lot of the jump scares in the house are Ghostbusters. I will say, my second run through of this house, there was a lot more of Garaka, the villain from Frozen Empire, in this one than there was the first time I went through. Yeah, and he's a big dude, but it was quite fun. We had a good time. Both times I went through it. It's definitely one that I will probably go through as many times as I possibly can this year, just because it's fun. This is also where, for me, there was an unexpected phobia scene, but it was expected kind of because there is a character in the movie that does do my phobia, in the new movie that does do my phobia, but they don't show anything. It's just they play the sound. So yeah, that one is in the middle for me. I do really like that one. It's a great starter maze. It's not very scary. A lot of the jump scares are just, the Ghostbusters popping out and being like, oh yeah, we're busting ghosts. But other than that, it's definitely still a lot of fun and still something I would highly recommend, especially if you have people that are unsure about how they're going to feel about the haunted houses. Also, sorry that I keep looking down. Because my system has been acting really weird with this recording, I'm watching myself on the viewfinder because either I will slow really, 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 really way down where I'm like moving like a robot, or my mic will go out. So I keep like looking at the camera, looking down, looking at the camera, looking down. Hopefully you guys won't see all of this, but yeah, for some reason my computer's just acting wonky today. Hasn't been doing that, but all of a sudden today when I want to record, it's acting wonky. All right, so now we're on to my top 3 so far. And this is an interesting bunch, and it's probably a controversial bunch. I know some people are going to have a problem with what I have in my top 3, and I don't care. I'm going to stand by it right now. Right now, I'm going to stand by it. All right, so for the number 3 spot, now I know these ones definitely swapped. For my number 3 spot, I have the Museum Deadly Exhibits. Now, this house is super aesthetically pleasing. It's a really interesting story that plays throughout the whole house, and it's also included a little bit in the mummy gift shop as well, because they talk about the rotting stone. The first time I went through this house, because I've been through this house twice as well. The first time I went through this house, it was very scary, and here's the reason why. When we went through this house, my brother and I, there was no one in front of us, no one behind us. How did that happen, you say? Because we got there super early and there was no wait for the line, the house. So we walked straight into the house, and it was just me and my brother against the creatures of the rotting stone, and it was terrifying. There was some great scares, great moments. Second time walking through this house, I got to appreciate it a lot more and look at some of the set pieces and the way the scares were designed. I got a few good scares in this one the second time, but it wasn't as scary with a crowd of people as it was like the first time with no one in it. Definitely can attest to going through haunted houses by yourself is a lot scarier. And I've done that before at Howl-O-Scream. There was one year I went to Howl-O-Scream where there was no one there because there was really bad rainstorm, and I went through all of the houses by myself with my friend that I went with. So I can attest to, yeah, going through haunted houses with just like your party, especially if it's just you and one other person, terrifying. So the museum was originally my second favorite house, but it dropped down to my third because the second run through I got of the second house was so much fun. And I got one of the best scares I've gotten this year so far in this house. And that house for my second favorite house is Goblin's Feast. Now, Goblin's Feast, I was already sure I was going to love. And when I went through it the first time, I really did enjoy it, but I thought it was more like, first things first is I was expecting a ton more gore, and there's a lot of gore in this house, but it definitely wasn't as gory as I was expecting. I was expecting it to be nasty, you know. It gives me Skyrim, it gives me Lord of the Rings, it's giving me those vibes. Like, I love those vibes, and it's very fun. Like, me and my roommate were joking when we were outside of the house because they play this like they play this clip over and over again, and it is a little bit much when you're hearing it constantly. It sounds like the night that we went, they turned the speakers down a little bit so you could only hear it if you were directly in front of the house, because when I first went, you could hear it like way far back. It was loud, but it's this clip of a woman screaming very egregiously, and then you hear like somebody pounding her, and then you hear one of the orcs or whatever, and he's like, "Quiet, meat, you'll scare the rest of the cattle." And my roommate and I were joking, like, why is this like a Skyrim or Elder Scrolls like NPC? It's like Bethesda NPC moment. But yeah, no, it was super funny. Like, we just kept saying that it sounded like a Bethesda, like, like Skyrim NPC just going on and on and on repeatedly. So that was really funny. This house moved up on the list for me though, because I got a really good scare in this house where I was looking at one guy and then another guy popped out like right in my face and got me really good, to the point where I was just like, I even had to say it. I was like, you got me. Like, that was good. Which is usually what I do when the scare actors get me really good. All right, and that's why Goblin's Feast moved up for me, because that was just like a really solid scare. I thought it was great, and it's a very fun house, and I love the last little scene in the house. We got a different line this time, but I like the fact that I like that little snatched goblin that we see at the end. The final house that is number 1 on my list, and I know this is going to be incredibly controversial, because this house is already starting to divide the HHN fan base. And I'm just going to say it. let me be dramatic about this house. Let me talk about this house the way I need to talk about this house, because everything is just going wrong with this recording. My camera's been moving super slow. My mic keeps going out. My ring keeps going off. Oh my God. Okay. We're going to try to wrap this up soon. So yeah, like I said, just let me be dramatic, because I think this is the first time that I've gone through a house at Halloween Horror Nights where I have genuinely been like, wow, I hated that. I loved it, I hated it, and I don't know if I can do it again. Being completely honest, but I'm going to try my diddly darndest to do it again. And surprisingly enough, it is an IP, and I'm sure those of you who've been through it so far are probably rolling your eyes right now, and that's okay. That's okay if it did not give you this reaction. That's totally fine. I just know for me it did. And that is Insidious. Now, it is my favorite house this year so far. It is, in my opinion, the scariest IP they've ever done. I said IP. Hold your horses before y'all start coming in the comments with the, oh my God, but this house that they did in 1993 was so much scarier. No, I'm talking about IP, intellectual property. I'm not talking about the original houses. I'm not talking about their original ideas. I'm talking about this is the scariest IP they've ever done. And I say that just because I've experienced pretty much every IP that they've done in recent years. This one takes the cake. This one takes the cake for fear factor. Transparency, real quick. I love the first Insidious movie. It is easily in like my top 20 favorite horror movies of all time. Back when I watched it, I was a lot more of a coward when it came to horror movies, and I remember it messed me up, and I loved it, but I hated it at the same time. I'm a pretty big fan of James Wan, and I'm a pretty big fan of James Wan's, movies, and this was definitely high on the list for me. So when they said they were going to do an Insidious house, I remember they did an Insidious house, like I said, in 2015. I don't remember it. I don't remember if it was this scary. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. This house, however, the best way I can describe this house is it's like a waking nightmare. It is so long. It doesn't feel like it's ever going to end. Like when you're in there, it feels like you're trapped in there for the rest of your life. It is so compact. It is very close, like close quarters. I know people are ripping on the scare actors like the lipstick demon and the woman in black, or the veiled woman, or whatever she's called. I know people are ripping on those scare actors because they wear these weird masks. I don't care. They're still scary to me. This house was like, it was just relentless, in my opinion. The night that I went, I've only been through it once. I do plan on going through it again and trying to go through it a couple more times to see if it still gives me the heebie-jeebies. I have not been scared of Insidious since I saw the first movie, and I saw the first movie and it scared me, and then I got over it and I watched it multiple times. Like I sometimes it's a comfort movie for me. Sometimes I'll just throw it on. The music scares me now because of this haunted house. The tiptoe through the tulips, it unnerves me. This is the first time in a long time that I've been genuinely unnerved by anything, to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, this is occupying space in my mind for too much, which is like, I'm kind of obsessed with it, but at the same time I kind of hate it at the same time. I actually watched Hollywood's edition of this house today, and the reaction that I had from it, I haven't had that reaction towards anything in a very long time, and that is saying something, because I'm pretty seasoned, especially when it comes to haunted houses and scary stuff. I'll still close my eyes a couple of times. I'll still look away. I do wear earplugs through the haunted houses because of just loud noises really mess with like my ears and stuff. So I'll wear earplugs through the haunted houses just to kind of dilute it. This felt like just a relentless attack on all of my senses. There is a scene that enacts my phobia in this, and it was graphic, and it it did trigger me a little bit, but not too much, thankfully. What the hell, Universal? That's really all I can say is, oh my God. Like, when people are like, oh, Halloween Horror Nights isn't that scary, their haunted houses aren't scary, that, like, you know, and especially I've been seeing a lot of people saying, oh, Insidious isn't that scary, the house is kind of stupid, it's kind of goofy. I saw someone describe it, no disrespect to this person because I had a wonderful conversation with them, but I saw someone describe it as an episode of Scooby-Doo. And I was like, what Scooby-Doo episodes are you watching? Because, oh my God, this is an episode of Scooby-Doo for you? This is an episode of Scooby-Doo for you? Like, on what planet? Because I used to watch Scooby-Doo religiously. I watched the movies. I watched the cartoon movies and the live-action movies. I don't remember Scooby-Doo ever making me feel like that. So either I am just a weakling, or you have seen some really twisted Scooby-Doo stuff in your life. Like I said, no disrespect to that person, because I did end up having a lovely conversation with them. They were very nice, very kind. No disrespect to them. It just took me aback when I saw that on Threads. I was like, did she just describe the Insidious house as a Scooby-Doo episode? On what planet? What Scooby-Doo have you watched? That's not even a Courage the Cowardly Dog episode. Like, that's nothing compared to what, like, you know, and yes, I can understand where some of the criticisms do lie. Like I've said earlier, some of the people were making fun of the masks that the scare actors have to wear, looking very cartoony. And yeah, I will agree, from the pictures I've seen, the images I've seen, yeah, they are very cartoony. But for me, it wasn't the scare actors. It was the atmosphere of the house that really messed me up. You know, it sounds goofy, but everything was red, and maybe that was what contributed to my feeling of utter just despair in the house. I felt like I was trapped in that house, and especially with how long it was. It just felt like it did not end. It was relentless. There were a lot of actors, and yes, that did attribute to it. And I think that if the house was shorter and not red, maybe, I don't know, like, it wouldn't have gotten me as bad as the other house, like, as it did. But it really messed me up. Like I said in my TikTok I made about this, I said that I went in that house on the Friday for opening night. I went in that house because everyone on TikTok the day before was saying that it's the scariest house of Halloween Horror Nights. Everyone I was seeing was like, Insidious is the scariest, Insidious is the scariest. And me and my roommate were like, we're going through that one. So we waited for her. We got in that line immediately when she got there. And my brother's never seen Insidious, so he had no idea what was going on. Me and, you know, my roommate have seen the movie, and we're just like, oh yeah, we're going to be tiptoeing through the tulips. We're all excited. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. And we walked into the house, and she was like making jokes. And I'm like, I'm so glad it didn't bother you, because I left that house and I was like, I have never felt this way leaving a haunted house, where it wasn't that I was ready to go through it again, but it was like I left that house and I was genuinely like, I think I just went to hell. Like, I think I just went to hell. Like, I think that's what that felt like for me. Like, it was so overwhelming. It was overwhelming. And yeah, I cracked some jokes in the house. I was dancing. I was goofing around a little bit. But there was one point we got to that I was like, it's not over. I think I literally said that out loud. I was like, it's not done yet. Because I was so ready for it to be over. I was just like, I want to leave. I want to leave. Like, get me out of here. And I'm sure at any point in time I could have turned to one of the attendants and been like, yeah, can you like take me out the back entrance? Because I need to get out. It messed me up to a point where I was just like, I could not stop thinking about it. Like, I went home and I went back to the hotel because we stayed at a hotel. I was thinking about it. I came home and I was thinking about it. I didn't stop thinking about it till I made my TikTok that Monday. And then I stopped thinking about it. And then when we went on that Friday, I kind of mentioned to myself I wanted to do it again. But then I was like, I'm not ready for it. I'm not quite ready for that yet. And then I watched Hollywood's version today. And the reaction I had to just watching someone walk through a version I've never even been through, and I won't get to go through this year. There's something like I'm over exaggerating. I'm being 100% dramatic. Just don't take me seriously. But there's something evil in that house. There's something evil in that house because it I don't know if it's the sound design. I don't know if it's the look. I don't know what it is about that house. I don't know if it's because they're jamming 5 movies into one house, 5 sets of monsters into one house. I don't know. I really don't. I wish I did, but the house literally haunts me. The Insidious house literally haunts me to the point where I'm like, I know when the season ends, I'm still going to be thinking about this house. It's going to be living rent free in my brain till the day I die. And I have to say, kudos to Universal for making an IP scary, in my opinion. In my opinion, other people might disagree. Because normally the IPs are a cakewalk for me. They're child's play. And even though The Last of Us last year was definitely atmospheric and creepy and scary, it was child's play compared to this. It was absolute child's play compared to this. This did not feel fun until I left the house, and I was like, I'd do it again, but I need to be mentally prepared. That's going to be a house that I have to do a couple of shots, and I don't even do shots anymore. That's how you know. A couple of shots, and then have a mixed drink in line, and it has to be like an hour wait so I can mentally prepare myself for what I'm about to do. I genuinely, I know I'm being very dramatic, and I know I'm like stretching this segment out, but I've been dying to talk about this house, really. And who knows, maybe by the end of the season I'll have another number one. Goblin's Feast almost did overtake it because I just had so much fun in that house the second time I went through it. But this one just, it is an amazing display of what the Horror Nights team can do when they really try to make something scary. And, you know, again, a lot of people are saying it's not scary, and I understand. Everybody's threshold for scary is different, and definitely theme park haunts, in my opinion, for some people can be very tame and very, like, goofy, because you go to these, like, non-theme park haunts and they're very intense and they turn up the heat and stuff. And that's okay if that's how you feel about Halloween Horror Nights, and you feel like the houses are not super duper scary and like they're kind of child's play. That's fine. I don't see any issue with it. For me personally, I think it's the perfect amount for me because it's scary, but in a controlled environment. I don't ever feel like the actors are trying to actually harm me, where I feel like some of the videos I see of non-theme park haunts, I'm like, are these people getting background checked? Because I'm afraid this person might like kidnap me and kidnap somebody and take them away. But again, like I said, I can't really like speak to those because I haven't been to any of those events. But yeah, Insidious House is definitely number one for me this year. This is, I think, the first time ever in my years of going to Halloween Horror Nights, with the exception of the first year I went, because the first year I went, I was there for The Walking Dead, and it did not disappoint. But this, I think, is my first year going to the event in a long time, where I feel like an IP is going to end up being my favorite of the year. And that's definitely saying a lot. I do think in 2022, Halloween wasn't my favorite. It was definitely Dead Man's Wharf. Dead Man's Wharf was my favorite. But yeah, this is the first time I think that. But then again, like I said, I haven't been through Triplets of Terror, and I have not been through Slaughter Cinema. So that could change. One of those two houses could rip the title away from Insidious in like 2 seconds. But right now, Insidious is living rent-free in my head. The Lipstick Demon is tiptoeing by the window in my brain every single day. And I think he's going to live there for quite some time. And again, kudos to Universal Studios for that, because that's the first time in a long time you guys have left that kind of impression on me. I can tell you that much. But yeah, so Insidious is my favorite house. Those are my rankings for the houses I've been through so far. I will do a full definitive list at the end of the season when I've finally gone through all 9 of the houses I'm going to go through, and I've gone through them a few times, and I can kind of say what my piece about them. The final thing I wanted to talk to you, I'm going to kind of combine 3 things in one. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the show. So we did see Nocturnal Circus on Saturday, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before that. We did see Nocturnal Circus, which is the Nightmare Fuel show that they have this year. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty decent. Definitely, I like the fact that it was different. I didn't see it the first year or whatever year that they did it, where they had the previous year's plot. But I do like the fact that they changed it a little bit. It was fun. Good music as per the usual. I have no complaints about it. Like, genuinely thought it was a fun show. I did not see the Death Eaters yet. I will probably be seeing them when my best friend comes. I'm not really a big Harry Potter fan, to be quite honest, anymore. But I didn't make it priority to go see the Death Eaters. I saw them last year. They're pretty much going to be doing the same thing that they did last year this year. So I'll probably pop down there when I go with my best friend, just because I know that she'll probably want to check that stuff out. But yeah, I'm not really a big Harry Potter fan anymore, so I don't really like care about the Death Eaters so much. There's so much other stuff to see that's more important to me. And then as far as the food, I really haven't gotten to try a lot of stuff yet, but I will say I love the fish and chips. I saw somebody try those and say that they loved it, and then I decided to try it, and I thought it was delicious. Very light. I love fish and chips, but it's one of those meals that I cannot eat at a theme park. I've had it a couple of times at theme parks, and I always end up feeling too full and feeling like nauseated and stuff because it's just a lot of food. This was like the perfect portion, and the fries were delicious. The chips. Sorry, the chips. The chips were delicious, and the fish was very light and fluffy, in my opinion. So I like the fish and chips. I need to get my marshmallow guy. I need to get him. I gotta get him at some point. We'll see. I'm gonna try my hardest to get him at some point. Maybe next time I go, I'll get my marshmallow guy. So yeah, that's another one I need to try. And then the only specialty drink I've tried so far is the Murderita. And that was pretty good. It was pretty good. I got that from the HHN bar. I actually like the HHN bar so far this year. I haven't been able to go to the other bar that's in San Francisco because last time we went there, it was an hour wait to get a drink. So yay. But I like that one. When we went there, it was like walk up both times. So I did try the Margarita. It was pretty good. I like the cups this year. The souvenir cups. I do like those cups. I like the fact that it lights up with that purple light. It's very pretty, very aesthetically pleasing. I enjoy it. The tribute store this year. How do I feel about the tribute store? If I'm being completely honest, it's probably my least favorite tribute store of like all of the tribute stores. Doesn't mean it's bad. It is still a pretty good tribute store. I wanted to do this year they always do like a specialty item where you can take a picture and put your face on it, and then like it's either like a picture that they hang up. I wanted to do something like that this year, but this year they just had like food boxes, and I don't want that as a souvenir. So unfortunately, I did not do it this year. Maybe next year. It's an interesting theme. It's kind of like an underground tunnel theme. You go through like a subway, a sewer, an abandoned grocery store. Yeah, it's all right. I was supposed to be wearing some of the merch for this, but I forgot to change my shirt before I came out here. So, I do like the merch this year. I think a lot of the merch is really good. There's a lot of Little Boo merch. If you like Little Boo, if you know who Little Boo is, there's a lot of Little Boo merch. I did get 2 shirts. So I have the Quiet Place shirt, and then I also have the Mel's Die-In shirt, which was the annual pass holder shirt for this year. Probably not going to get any more shirts. I have way too many t-shirts as it is, and those 2 were like my favorite, so I'm probably not going to get any more. I do have something. You can't really see it because my lamp is blocking it, but on this side over here, there is a picture that I got from Halloween Horror Nights. It's the Blumhouse characters that are in the Scare Zone this year. I got that. I thought that was really cool. Also, my Get Out picture is really cool too. I got that for my birthday. That was my birthday gift to myself. Big ups. And then there's Hereditary up there in case you're wondering. And then my favorite year from Halloween Horror Nights 2019. All right, I'll stop showing what's on my wall. But yes, I do have a Blumhouse like picture from over there. As far as merch goes, that's another thing. And then I got a Chucky fan. So I got that because it's hot outside. But yeah, so I got a couple things from the merch. I think the merch is really cute this year. So yeah, I would definitely advise getting it. So to wrap this video up, this video is taking me a lot longer to film because I've been having so many computer issues today. And I was expecting it to be a quicker video, but we'll see what happens when I go back to edit how bad the video is. If I have to redo this and this video gets delayed again, I'm sorry. So yeah, what do I think so far about Halloween Horror Nights 24? Let me just say my first initial feeling towards Halloween Horror Nights 24 is that it is very chaotic, and not just because of the big crowds and the crazy, like stuff like that. I initially felt like the event didn't feel like it was cohesive. Like one of my biggest gripes about, like, not one of my biggest gripes, but one of the things I griped about was how, like, the tribute store and the Scare Zone that the tribute store's in don't really match. that kind of bothered me a little bit. Not that they always do, because they usually don't, but it's just so jarring because the Scare Zone is like a Ren Fair theme, and then like the tribute store is like underground tunnel themed. So it is a little bit like jarring. It didn't feel like it was cohesive. I did watch a video, and if I can find the video, I'll link it below. I did watch a video explaining how this whole event connects with the unofficial icons of Sinister and Surreal, and like the individual stories that we have in each house and everything. So, personally, I understand a little bit more about what they were trying to do with this year's event. So it feels a little bit more like it makes sense now that I watched that video. It definitely helps. That was my first complaint, but it's definitely a very chaotic year. Like when we got that first glimpse of merch earlier this year, it was definitely an omen of things to come. It's like, the merch was very like loud and like colorful, and there was a bunch of stuff on it. So I definitely think that was like an omen of things to come. Does that mean it's a bad year? No. There's not really a bad year for me for Halloween Horror Nights. I go to have fun with the people that I go with, and I will always be critical of the houses, the scare zones, the shows, the food, but at the end of the day, I always find something I love at Halloween Horror Nights. The whole point of me going to the event isn't to say, oh, that event sucked this year or something like that. And I know some people feel that way, it's not their favorite thing. There are things I don't like about the event. I don't like being conga lined into the houses and not getting to really get all the scares, especially if it's a house I've never been in. I don't like this year's excessive usage of something that I have a phobia of. That's not necessary. It's not necessary to be utilized in horror elements. Plenty of horror movies are impactful without that. Yes, are there movies that utilize it as a horror factor? Of course, but plenty of horror movies are impactful without that specific phobia of mine. I do think that the originals are a little bit weaker this year than they've been in previous years compared to some of the IPs, and I do wish we had more IPs, because I do feel like the choice of IPs, with the exception of Insidious, is a little bit weaker than previous years that they've had. I mean, coming off of a year where you did not only a major video game, a game that's so popular and so ingrained in pop culture, and then it has a television adaptation, which is considered one of the best video game adaptations of all time. You not only did that, but you also did a TV show that is a freaking behemoth, whose fourth season was like one of the most watched seasons of the entire show, and was one of the highest rated seasons on Netflix at the time. Like, you go from that year to Ghostbusters' least popular movie and A Quiet Place, which is a very popular franchise but very hard to translate in house form. It's not to say that either of those houses are bad. I said straight up that I really didn't like Frozen Empire as a movie, but the house was fun. I had a good time during that house. And A Quiet Place, while I think it doesn't really translate super well as a haunted house, was still a good time and was still very interesting. And it's a lot more fun when you can try to be quiet in the house. So it's not me sitting here saying that like, oh, this year's a total flop. It's Universal's flop era. Anybody who says that to me, I just think you're kind of bitter in that way. I don't think this is a flop era for Halloween Horror Nights. I think it is definitely an interesting era, and I can only hope that this is a good sort of filler era to the next great thing, because I thought last year was fantastic. I thought 2022 was fantastic. 2021 was kind of the filler year. So I'm hoping that this is the filler year again, and then next year will really hit us with something like amazing. I never posted my video where I talked about this, where I talked about the IP problem that Halloween Horror Nights is facing. And I've said it before, they are kind of running out of IPs. They've kind of hit a wall, because a lot of IPs are giving the rights to other companies to utilize their product. We've seen that with Six Flags. Six Flags is utilizing a lot of IPs this year, which is good and bad. Six Flags definitely needs to work on quality. But I think it's awesome that they have so many IPs and that they are giving people the chance to go through them. There's also a lot of people who've complained about the fact that Universal Studios Hollywood seemed to get better IPs than Universal Studios Orlando did. While we share Insidious, A Quiet Place, and Ghostbusters, they also and Universal Monsters, they also have Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So they technically have 5 IPs where we only have 4, and we only have 4, and technically we only have 3 IPs because, like I've said before, Universal Monsters doesn't count as an IP to me because it's their own property. It's their own property. Like, they're not buying the rights from somebody else to do this. So again, I don't know how everybody's going to feel about this year. It's definitely a mixed bag compared to previous years. But I went on Friday, and even though it was raining, I still had a blast. I had a fun time. I was there to just enjoy it. I got through 4 houses. I rode 2 rides. It was a good night. I had a little drinky drink, and I walked around the park, and I just took in the atmosphere. I just enjoyed being there, and I'm sure I'm going to do that many more nights. The main thing for me is that it's Halloween Horror Nights. I always have a good time. Unless I'm with people that aren't having a good time, then I have a bad time. But for the most part, I usually always have a good time. But I do feel, like I said, like this year is definitely a transitional year, and I am looking forward to what 34 brings. There's a lot of stuff that I'm hoping going forward we will see come to fruition. So we'll see next year. Like I said, I'm going to do another video kind of wrapping up the season not later this month. I'm going to be going in October probably too, but I'm going to do another video when I've decided it is my last day at Halloween Horror Nights. I will do another video kind of letting you guys know how I feel about this year's event, for real, for true. I've only been 3 times, so I really haven't I've enjoyed the event, but I really haven't experienced everything and done everything yet that I want to do. I haven't eaten a lot of the food. I haven't drank a lot of the drinks, and I haven't seen all of the houses that I want to see, not Major Suites. So aside from that, yeah, I definitely have more to experience, and it's just getting started. Tomorrow is the official start of week 2 of this event. So yeah, let's go. Let's get it. I'm ready to go. I'm sure I will be going again sometime soon. I know I will be going again at the end of the month. So if any of you guys are going to be there, I will see you in the fog on that one. What do we have content wise coming up? I don't know who I'm looking at over there. There's nobody over there that's going to tell me what I have to do. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I haven't watched any new movies. I know Beetlejuice came out. I haven't seen it yet. I probably won't see it till it's on streaming. But I will say this, my next video is going to be a behemoth. It's going to be a long one. It is going to be a review, but it's going to be a review of a TV show this time, because there is a TV show that I just finished watching that has been occupying my thoughts since I finished it. I am obsessed with it. It is everything to me, and I want to talk about it. And you guys are going to listen to me ramble. You don't have to, but you guys are going to listen to me ramble for maybe about an hour, maybe more, about this TV show, because I am so obsessed with it that it lives rent-free in my brain. But other than that, I'm going to maybe start trying to work on some Halloween-related content as we go into September. As we go into October, we are in September. What is wrong with you? As we go into October, I will try to work on some Halloween related content. I do want to do a video about why Halloween is a classic, and we will get to that, I promise. It's going to be a good fall. It's already started out really great, and I'm just so grateful to get to go out and do this. I'm so grateful to live close. I moved. My 1-year anniversary of being in Central Florida was yesterday. I've lived in Florida my whole life. But my 1-year anniversary of being in Central Florida was yesterday, and it's really changed my life, which is crazy to say. I was, just super happy to come here last year, and I just remember, I came here last year, and then the week after I unpacked everything was my first night at Halloween Horror Nights last year. So this has been a really exciting time for me, just getting to live here, getting the close proximity of the theme parks, getting to be I have a movie theater right around the corner from my house, which is amazing, because where I used to live, the movie theater was 20-30 minutes drive. So I could just get up and just 5 minutes right around the corner, and there we go. There's a movie theater. I'm going to go see a movie. you know, I just feel like I'm in a much better place now, and I'm really happy to be here, and I'm glad that I get to create such fun content, and hopefully the little footage I do include in this video is interesting and fun for you guys to watch. I will probably do a full-on HHN vlog later on down the line, maybe including some of this footage, maybe not. We'll see how I feel. But yeah, in any case, let me know what you guys think about this year's HHN. If you've been, if you haven't been, if you're going soon, what are you most excited for? If you've, you know, if you have been, what did you like the most? Do you disagree with me that Insidious is terrifying? Do you think I'm being over dramatic? It's okay if you do. I totally understand. Everybody's different. I'm not bothered by it. But yeah, you know, like, do you like the food? Do you like the drinks? Like, what's your thoughts on this year's event? And if you're not going this year, do you wish you were going? Have you seen the videos on TikTok and you know, YouTube, and do you wish you were going? Or are you like, I'm glad I'm skipping this year? Yeah, just let me know down in comments. You know, you can also hit me up over on Threads, like that's where I mostly live, and then also I'm on Instagram and TikTok. I'm gonna try to be more active on those apps. I'm so bad at it, but I'm gonna try to be more active on those apps because I'm very active on Threads, but I'm not active anywhere else. So yeah, you guys can go check me out at _creepy_critiques on Instagram and Threads, and on TikTok it's just creepy critiques, because here we are. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I will see you guys in my next video, and yeah, I'm not gonna do my outro today because it doesn't fit with this video, so I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.